The communities that we work with are families that are overcoming cycles of abuse, trauma. Many women have been formerly incarcerated, have substance abuse histories, and so these are women that have been marginalized, disenfranchised, and really just looking for a place to heal, to grow, to reunify with their children, and to be self-sufficient.
So we focus on FFNs, who are the family, friends, and neighbors that care for children. We mainly focus on caregivers that take care of children 0 to 5, but they also work with children that are older.
What's been really core to the way that we've worked for the last 30 years is meeting young people where they're at, but making sure that we don't leave them there. So we're meeting young people in the streets, in juvenile hall, in the group homes, and it's based because we hire from people that have similar experience, so they know where those young people are because those are the places they were at.
We use therapy for throughout all of our programs, honestly, just because we've seen the impact it has had on the mother individually, the child individually, and the family as a whole. And so we provide individual therapy for both mom and children separately, and then alongside of that, they're also getting family therapy. We're seeing such a tremendous impact on our families, especially our children.
Y también hemos creado un proyecto especial que le llamamos Arte y Sanación, porque muchas de las mujeres que vienen, que son parte de Mujeres Unidas, están enfrentando diferentes situaciones que necesitan sanar. Algunas sanan yendo con la terapista, algunas sanan cantando, algunas sanan bailando, algunas sanan haciendo obras de teatro. El teatro popular ha sido muy importante. Entonces, ese proyecto es uno de mis consentidos, se podría decir, porque nos permite darle a la mujer lo que ella necesita.
I just love our family reunification program. Because of this service that we provide in this program, we've been able to reunite over 315 kids back with their mom out of foster care since our inception.
When it finally clicks to a young person that there are people that see them as brilliant and that they're amazing and that they're these leaders, and you see them really step into their leadership, I think that to me is the most powerful part of the work, is really watching these young people transform like right in front of your eyes.
Weave is really about supporting survivors and their children. We're looking at the families and the children and the grandparents and the community itself as learning more about domestic violence, the dynamics of domestic violence, the multi-generational impact and effect that domestic violence has on families and in the community.
Sometimes not only the parent will come to the class, but sometimes it's not only the parent, but the grandparent. And I think that it's a huge step because we, especially for us as Hispanics, many of the things that we do, we didn't know or we don't know that are considered domestic violence.
Entonces, en la organización tenemos un grupo muy especial donde participan las abuelas, las mamás, las personas que cuidan niños, porque nosotros intencionalmente queremos y creemos que romper el ciclo de la violencia doméstica tiene que comenzar por la casa, por los niños, empezar a desaprender algunos mensajes con los que hemos aprendido.
When women see their children doing well, it impacts our women because it gives them a sense of relief. And what I have seen is that they can finally forgive themselves. And it's hard for them at first because they feel so guilty for everything that they've done. If they've been incarcerated, they haven't been in their lives. If they had substance abuse issues and then they had to have time away from them, they feel guilty, like they need to make up for it. And so when they're able to see the healing in their children, it's just a relief for them. It reduces their stress, it reduces their anxiety, and they're able to move forward.
For many of us, and I can speak for personal experience, we were never told that the way that we experience life is valued knowledge. I think it's in our stories and the way that we share stories and the way that it's the way that we build and connect with each other, and centering people's lived experiences as knowledge helps us make sure that we can center them as experts and leaders in the community.
The thing that I think I value the most about Visión y Compromiso is the fact that we don't go to a community and prescribe what we think that they need. We always go to the community first and ask about their necessities. It's not only data-based programs that we work on. We come to the community because sometimes data only tells you a part of the information, but to hearing or listening to the people, what is it that they need firsthand, I think it's what makes the difference.
Across our kind of the individuals within our cohort, there was an equitable change. So, within monolingual versus monolingual Spanish versus English speaking, we didn't see any differences across language, also across race, when we looked at the impacts of our program.
Nosotros con estos fondos también aprendimos de las investigadoras a hacer nuestro propio análisis. Nosotros no sabíamos nada de eso. Entonces siento que esto nos dejó herramientas muy buenas porque ahora nosotras podemos y sabemos cómo se hace los datos cuantitativos, los datos demográficos. Antes nosotros no teníamos una idea de todo eso y la importancia de tener esos datos en la organización, esas gráficas para poder demostrar el avance de nuestros programas.
A couple of the really key things that excite me or that I think are really meaningful for moving this work forward and thinking about the field and moving the field of DV prevention forward and this 2-gen framework is educationally, these kids are doing really, really well. Over 90% of them leave the preschool with having passed the kinder readiness, right? So in and of itself, that's really meaningful. These are kids who would otherwise typically not be kinder ready. And what we're seeing is these kids on average perform as well as their peers through 6th grade who presumably did not have the same levels of early exposure to domestic violence.
I think what this is allowing us to do is say that we've always had the knowledge and the data, but we haven't been able to present it in a way that research hasn't really caught up to the way that we're thinking about it. And so now we're able to speak that language and say no, this is, we have an evidence-based model. I think we're able to now present that in ways that we weren't able to.
Economic mobility is a protective factor for interpersonal violence. And it's difficult to prove. And so without this, I think we would not have been able to really understand the impact that LIFT is having such a long-term potential effect on these families in preventing interpersonal violence and reducing family stress and just bolstering the economic mobility and strength of our families that we work with.
A lot of our core services that we get from government grants to be a domestic violence agency doesn't actually include funding specifically for children. There's no specific children's counseling. So this funding is a huge impact because it allows us to have a dedicated children's advocate that can work with survivors and their children.
This is very special because when parents or grandparents that are childcare providers open up to us in a cohort saying, I didn't know, or I wish I would have known 20 years ago when I was raising up my children, but now I'm gonna tell my children so they don't commit the same mistakes with my grandchildren. I think it has made a huge difference. And we are extremely thankful for the funding because as a facilitator of these cohorts, to see that change firsthand, it's just priceless.
So what we're really seeing is that we're building generation of leaders, and that's what we do at the center. It's a leadership incubator and how we continue to learn from each other and learn from the legacy of people that have come before us.
Y solamente necesitamos que alguien crea nuestro liderazgo, que alguien invierta en nuestro liderazgo para poder hacer cosas muy grandes por nuestra comunidad, por nuestras familias y por nosotras mismas.